Hi everyone, and welcome to my fourth video in the HTML basic series. The last video I had to cut it really short because I was running out of time, but I had to quickly insert my footer background and my menu background, and I gave the menu a height, but I'm going to do a height for the footer as well. And I'm going to give that one a height of 30 pixels. I'm going to save my index.html. Refresh the page and you'll see that each of them have different styling now. Let's say I wanted to swing this menu box down to the left and have it just a left-hand navigation. The nice thing about this is I don't have to really change anything. The only thing I have to do is designate a width for this. So I want 200 pixels. My content, I've got to give that a width as well, so that way it lines up correctly. So 1080 pixels, and I'm going to set this one to float left. And what this is saying is basically I want us to push all the way to the left, doesn't matter what's there, and I want everything else to wrap around it. And I'm going to do the same thing to my menu. And if there's already something that's floated to the left, anything that comes after it is just going to go right up next to it on the right side. So it's going to be my menu, then my content, and then everything else. And really what I should do is, and what I'm going to do right now, is put in a clear. And what a clear does is basically going to say everything that's either floated to the left or to the right, I want this to display below it. So it's not going to affect, it's not going to get stuck all the way to the right or to the left. So if you have something like that happen, make sure you put in a clear for your footer. I'm going to save it, go back over here and refresh, and now you'll see I have my menu on my left side and my content on my right side, as opposed to how it was before. And if I wanted to switch that, it's just as easy as float right. Save it and refresh, and that's it. That's the nice thing about using div tags. If you wanted to do it with a table, you'd actually have to go in it and manually grab the table row and switch the table data cells around so that way it displayed correctly. If you have a 100-page website, you could spend hours doing that. Doing it this way, you just update that CSS file and it's all done for you. So that's that, and I'm going to get into using unordered lists. And I like to use unordered lists for my menus because it gives me a flexibility that I can't really find with anything else. Because if you use a table, then if you wanted to interact a certain way or work a certain way, then you can't really get it to work the way that you can with unordered lists. And at the moment I don't have a good example of how that would be, but if I wanted to, let's say I was using jQuery and I wanted to have something slide down if I clicked on the item, then with a table I'd have to nest that in, and it would work, but it would be a little more complex. But if I did it this way, then with an unordered list, then it can be a little bit cleaner. And I can also individually stylize the UL tag, and then I can stylize the list item. So let's say I wanted to wrap everything in a box. The UL tag would get a box color, then the LI would get its own styling, and then my anchor tag itself within the LI tag could get its own styling as well. I'm going to do an example of that right now. Hopefully I have enough time. So I'm going to go ahead and with my menu, put in a UL tag for an unordered list, and within that LI, and I'm just going to copy this line a couple times and put in a couple items. So now, there we go. So I'll just put in home, about me, and these are kind of just quick things: portfolio, services, contact me. And these are kind of like standard links that I usually put in. And I'm just going to wrap these in. And this anchor tag is a link. So your href is the target that you want to go to. So if I wanted this to go to Google, then you just do http://, and you definitely need that, because if you don't have the http // your website's going to think that it's looking for google.com within your web page. So always add that if you're going outside of your website. So I'm going to close that, get rid of this. And then another alternative is if you just want your anchor tag and you don't want it to go anywhere, just put in a pound and it'll basically revert back to itself. It'll just put a pound at the end of your URL in your browser. So now if I go and finish up all these anchor tags, save the page and refresh, and I know I'm going kind of fast and I apologize for that. You'll notice that, and this is the problem with floats, you'll notice that the div tag doesn't stretch with the UL tag. So what you have to do is you actually have to give your UL a styling as well. So now UL, and the way that I like to do it is I like to do pound menu UL, so that way if I have any other UL tags in the web page, the styling's only going to apply to my UL tag that's in my menu ID. So, but if you have a styling that you want to apply to multiple UL tags, then I would go without the ID and just do a plain UL. So I'm going to do float to left, width 200. I'm not going to designate a height, and I am going to designate a background color of a dark gray. So now I'm going to change that from 200 to 190. Alright, and if I save that, refresh the page, it still doesn't quite work correctly. Alright. Oh, I know why. I forgot that every time you create a new UL and it doesn't have styling, it's always got padding and margin spacing. So if I put those to 0, refresh the page, it works. But my float's still not working correctly, and that's because I haven't added my list items, and I'm going to just do a display as block. And what this does is it makes sure that all my list items are displayed either so it's not as it doesn't get displayed as a list item, so it's not going to have the dot next to it. You have to set a width for this one, height, save it, refresh, and now that all works correctly. So, and the last thing I'm going to do is in my menu, I actually have to take out my height designation, and that's why it's not stretching correctly. So now if I go back over here and refresh, you'll notice my div tag actually works correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and add some padding to my menu, 2 pixels. So, and you have to compensate, so instead of 200, I'm going to do 96 for a width. Save it, refresh, and you'll notice I get a nice little border around everything. So, but I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and you can kind of see where this is going with my menu items. But I'm going to go ahead and pick up where I left, or where I'm going to leave off here in my next video.